Have you ever wondered what our sister planet Venus really looks like? Forget the filtered CGI images you've seen in textbooks or sci-fi movies. Today, we're diving deep into the raw, unfiltered reality of Venus, the second planet from the Sun and one of the most mysterious worlds in our solar system. In this video, we'll explore what Venus looks like up close, based on actual spacecraft photos and scientific observations. From its yellow sulfuric skies to its lava-scarred surface, you're about to see Venus in a way you've never imagined. At first glance, Venus appears as a brilliant evening star in our night sky, glowing more brightly than almost anything else. But when we zoom in, the truth is far more unsettling. Without CGI or artistic filters, Venus reveals itself as a planet covered in thick, toxic clouds. These clouds are not the fluffy white ones we see on Earth. They're made of sulfuric acid droplets, giving Venus an eerie, yellowish glow. Photographs captured by spacecraft like NASA's Pioneer Venus and ESA's Venus Express show a shrouded, stormy world where sunlight barely penetrates. The dense atmosphere scatters light, making the planet's surface almost impossible to see from orbit. Unlike Mars, which has clear skies and visible terrain, Venus hides its features under a suffocating blanket of gases. What makes this even more striking is how deceptive its beauty is. From Earth, it shines like a beacon, but up close, it's a hellish world of acid rain, endless haze, and crushing pressure. So what does Venus look like beneath those suffocating clouds? Without filters, the surface appears as a barren wasteland of rocky plains, twisted ridges, and mountains taller than Everest. The soil is dry, cracked, and scorched, giving it a dark, desert-like appearance. Unlike Earth, Venus has no oceans, no rivers, and no greenery, only an endless expanse of volcanic rock baked under extreme heat. The imagery we have is not colorful or cinematic. Instead, it's raw, grayscale radar scans, which tell us just how alien and unwelcoming this world is. Imagine standing there, no sound of wind, no breathable air, just the faint glow of the thick, yellow sky above and a lifeless, rocky desert stretching to the horizon. One of the most dramatic aspects of Venus is its atmosphere. If you were to stand on Venus without a suit, you wouldn't last more than a second. The air pressure is about 92 times greater than Earth's, equivalent to standing nearly a kilometer beneath the ocean. This crushing force makes Venus's environment one of the harshest in the solar system. Images taken by Soviet Venera landers in the 1970s and 80s show the surface as a dusty, orange-brown terrain captured just before the probes were destroyed by the hostile conditions. Rocks scattered across the landscape appear weathered, not by water, but by relentless heat and pressure. The unfiltered visuals show an alien world that feels suffocating just to look at. Unlike Earth's blue skies, Venus's atmosphere is thick with carbon dioxide, which not only traps heat, but also distorts the sunlight. The result? A dim, reddish glow that makes everything appear hazy and surreal. This atmosphere alone explains why exploring Venus is such a monumental challenge, and why every real image we have looks like it's been taken in another dimension. If the crushing pressure wasn't enough, Venus also holds the record as the hottest planet in the solar system. Despite being farther from the Sun than Mercury, its runaway greenhouse effect traps heat so efficiently that surface temperatures soar to around 465 degrees Celsius, 869 Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to melt lead and destroy spacecraft electronics within hours. In raw imagery, the evidence of this extreme heat is clear: fractured rocks, cracked surfaces, and landscapes shaped by relentless thermal stress. There are no signs of liquid water, no icy polar caps, and no chance for Earth-like life. Later missions like Venera 13 captured color photographs, revealing an orange-tinted surface littered with sharp, broken stones. These were not artistic impressions. They were raw, authentic snapshots of an alien world. The images show what no telescope from Earth could ever reveal: Venus's harsh terrain under its dim yellow-orange skies. The probes lasted only minutes to a couple of hours, before being destroyed by the crushing pressure and scorching heat. Yet in that short time, they gave us humanity's first and only close-up look at the real face of Venus. When you see these pictures, stripped of all filters, it feels like looking at a photograph from another dimension. Strange, hostile, and unforgettable. Unlike Earth's bright blue skies, the skies of Venus appear dim, hazy, and orange. This color comes from the thick carbon dioxide atmosphere and the fine particles of sulfuric acid that scatter sunlight in unusual ways. On the surface, sunlight is so heavily filtered that it feels like twilight at noon. Photographs from the Venera landers show a muted world where everything glows with a rusty tint. There are no sharp shadows because the light is diffused through the heavy, toxic clouds. Imagine standing there. Above you, the sky would not be blue, but a dull, suffocating haze, like looking through dirty, orange-tinted glasses. This color is not enhanced or digitally altered. It's the real spectrum of light on Venus's surface. The surreal glow contributes to the planet's eerie, alien feel. Unlike Mars's pink sunsets or Earth's golden horizons, Venus's skies seemed lifeless, drained of vibrancy, yet strangely beautiful in their ominous gloom. Venus is not just a flat volcanic desert. Radar mapping from NASA's Magellan spacecraft revealed towering mountain ranges and vast highlands. The tallest mountain, Maxwell Montes, rises over 11 kilometers high, taller than Mount Everest. These highlands appear rugged and dramatic in radar images, suggesting sharp cliffs and fractured surfaces. Unlike Earth, erosion on Venus isn't caused by rivers or glaciers. Instead, intense heat and volcanic activity shape the terrain. Without CGI, the radar scans show a planet scarred by tectonic forces, but without plate tectonics like Earth's. Instead, Venus's crust seems to buckle under its own pressure, creating twisted ridges and jagged mountain belts. If you could walk through these highlands, you'd see sharp, angular peaks rising through the haze, their bases surrounded by endless volcanic plains. The starkness of these landscapes reminds us that Venus is both similar to Earth in scale and yet fundamentally alien in appearance and origin. Most of Venus's surface is covered by vast plains of hardened lava. These plains stretch for thousands of kilometers, forming one of the largest volcanic landscapes in the solar system. In radar imagery, they appear as smooth, dark regions broken up by the occasional volcanic dome or ridge. On the ground, they would look like endless deserts of black rock, cracked and broken under the pressure and heat. The Venera landers captured glimpses of rocky plains, where stones and boulders were scattered across flat terrain. Without filters, these plains look desolate and empty, like a burned-out wasteland. Unlike Earth's volcanic fields, there is no cooling breeze, no sky full of clouds and birds, only stillness, heavy air, and intense heat radiating from the ground. Standing on one of these plains would feel like being trapped in an oven that stretches beyond the horizon, with no sign of life or water anywhere. One of the most fascinating discoveries on Venus is its dome-shaped volcanic structures, known as pancake domes. These massive, flat, circular features are unique to Venus and are thought to form when thick, viscous lava oozes slowly out of the ground and spreads in a shallow dome. Radar scans show that some of these domes are tens of kilometers across, with steep sides and flat tops. If you could see them in person, they would look like giant stone pancakes sitting on the planet's surface. Unlike Earth's volcanoes, which often rise dramatically into the sky, Venus's domes are squatter and broader. The lack of erosion keeps them sharp and well-defined, making the landscape appear frozen in time. Without filters, these domes look alien and surreal, massive stone formations shaped by forces we're only beginning to understand. They're a reminder that Venus isn't just hostile, it's geologically unique in ways no other planet is. Unlike Mercury or the Moon, Venus doesn't have many craters. That's because its dense atmosphere burns up most incoming meteors before they can hit the surface. The craters that do exist are huge, often surrounded by strange streaks of melted rock. Radar scans show craters with long radial patterns, as if the impact debris was stretched across the plains by the atmosphere. The few craters we've seen up close appear sharp and well-preserved, since there's no wind or rain to erode them away. Without CGI, the craters appear stark and dramatic against the flat plains, looking almost too perfect to be natural. They tell us that while Venus is geologically active, it has still been scarred by cosmic collisions. Each crater is like a frozen moment in time, preserved under the planet's suffocating atmosphere. Standing near one would be surreal, like walking into a massive bowl carved into stone, surrounded by silence and crushing heat. One of the most shocking realities of Venus is the presence of lightning. Despite its thick, dry atmosphere, spacecraft like Venus Express detected powerful lightning storms within the sulfuric acid clouds. Imagine standing on the surface, beneath a sky that glows orange and yellow, when suddenly the clouds flash with bright bursts of electricity. These lightning bolts, far stronger than Earth's, illuminate the hazy sky in brief, ghostly flashes. The sight would be both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder that Venus's atmosphere is far from calm. Without CGI, lightning on Venus wouldn't look like the crisp white bolts we see on Earth. Instead, it would appear diffused through the thick haze, glowing as eerie bursts of light flickering across the sky. The raw reality of this stormy world makes Venus feel alive in a strange, violent way, even though the surface itself is deathly still. At ground level, Venus's air is thick and barely moves. But high above the surface, in the upper atmosphere, winds race at hurricane speeds, up to 360 kilometers per hour. These winds are so fast, they can circle the entire planet in just 4 Earth days. From space, images of Venus's clouds show swirling patterns and streaks, proving the atmosphere is in constant motion. If you could see this up close, the surface would appear calm, but the skies above would be boiling with movement. Without filters, spacecraft cameras show clouds that stretch and bend, forming strange, wave-like structures. These super-fast winds give Venus's skies a restless, turbulent character, even while the ground below is eerily silent. The contrast between the planet's still surface and chaotic skies is one of the most haunting aspects of Venus's real appearance. It's like living beneath a storm that never ends, but one you can never escape or even fully see. One of the most striking features of Venus is what it lacks: water. Billions of years ago, Venus may have had oceans, but today there is no liquid water anywhere. The surface is bone dry, with cracked rocks and dusty plains stretching endlessly. Without rivers or lakes, the terrain looks desolate, almost like a desert that has been baked for eternity. The absence of water makes the landscape appear lifeless, with no erosion, no valleys carved by streams, and no soft edges. Instead, everything looks sharp, jagged, and dry. The Venera images show rocks that look like they've been sitting untouched for millions of years, weathered only by heat and pressure. Without filters, this absence of water is obvious. It's a world stripped bare, leaving behind only volcanic stone. The lack of water not only makes Venus inhospitable, but also gives it an alien, unsettling stillness. The most authentic glimpses of Venus come from the rocks captured in Venera lander photos. In these images, we see fractured, jagged stones scattered across dusty plains. The rocks appear orange-brown under the filtered sunlight, and their shapes suggest they've been fractured by extreme heat rather than by water erosion. Some look flat and plate-like, others more angular and sharp. Unlike Earth, where wind and rain smooth stones over time, Venus's rocks remain raw and broken, frozen in their harsh environment. Without CGI, the rocks look eerily natural, as if they could be sitting in a desert on Earth, yet their coloring and setting make them undeniably alien. Looking at them closely, you realize you are seeing the untouched face of another world, one that feels both familiar and hostile at the same time. It's a humbling reminder of how little of the solar system we've actually touched directly. If you could somehow smell Venus's air before it crushed you, it would be unlike anything on Earth. The atmosphere is over 96% carbon dioxide, laced with sulfur dioxide and droplets of sulfuric acid. Scientists believe it would carry the scent of rotten eggs mixed with a metallic tang, an unbearable chemical stench. Of course, no human could actually survive breathing it, but robotic sensors have confirmed the composition. This chemical cocktail contributes to the yellowish appearance of the sky as sunlight filters through toxic haze. Without CGI or filters, the reality is that Venus's air isn't just unbreathable, it's corrosive. Probes that landed there were slowly eaten away by the acid in the atmosphere. Imagine standing on the planet, surrounded by a heavy, reddish-orange haze that burns metal and dissolves electronics. The smell of Venus is not something we could ever truly experience, but the science tells us it would be unbearable. The raw truth is clear. Venus doesn't just look deadly, it is deadly. Venus is the ultimate example of a runaway greenhouse effect. Billions of years ago, Venus might have been more Earth-like, with oceans of liquid water. But as the sun grew brighter, its atmosphere trapped more heat, evaporating the oceans and releasing even more greenhouse gases. Today, the result is an atmosphere so thick that it locks in heat endlessly. Without CGI, this effect is visible in every radar image, every surface photo, every piece of data we have. The cracked rocks, scorched plains, and lifeless deserts are all the result of an atmosphere that went out of control. Standing there, you'd feel the weight of a climate catastrophe magnified to extremes. For scientists, Venus is more than just a planet, it's a warning. The way it looks today is a direct consequence of climate gone wild. And the raw, unfiltered reality of Venus serves as a mirror for what could one day happen on Earth if we ignore our own atmosphere. One of the strangest things about Venus is its rotation. A single day on Venus, one full spin on its axis, lasts 243 Earth days. But here's the twist. Venus rotates backwards compared to most planets. This means the sun rises in the west and sets in the east. On the surface, you would experience incredibly long, dim days, followed by equally long nights, though the thick atmosphere makes it hard to tell the difference. Without CGI, this reality feels disorienting. Imagine standing on the planet. The sky barely changes for weeks, always dim and hazy, with no clear sunrise or sunset. The world looks frozen in twilight, a place where time itself seems stretched. Photos and radar images don't capture the feeling of this strange cycle, but knowing it adds to the unsettling nature of the planet. Venus doesn't just look alien, it behaves alien, with a rhythm of day and night that feels unnatural compared to Earth. What would Venus sound like if you stood on its surface? The truth is, not much at all. The atmosphere is dense, so sound would travel differently, but because the winds near the ground are sluggish, you'd hear almost nothing. Perhaps the faint creaking of rocks under pressure or distant rumbles of volcanic activity, but otherwise, silence. The Venera landers did not carry microphones, but modern simulations suggest that Venus would be one of the quietest places imaginable. No birds, no rustling leaves, no flowing water, just silence under crushing pressure. Without CGI, this silence is implied in every image we have. Landscapes with no movement, no rivers, no life. Looking at the raw photos, you can almost hear the silence, as if the planet itself has been frozen in time. The stillness of Venus is one of its most haunting features, making its appearance feel even more alien. On Earth, hot deserts often shimmer in the sun, with heat waves distorting the air above the sand. On Venus, this effect would be magnified 100 times over. The ground is so hot that the air near the surface constantly ripples, creating a blurred, shifting view of the horizon. The Venera lander images show this faint distortion. Rocks in the distance appear hazy, almost like they're melting into the air. Without filters, this heat haze is a natural part of Venus's look, giving its landscapes a surreal, dreamlike quality. If you were standing there, the world around you would never appear still. Instead, the horizon would seem to waver, as though the entire planet were burning. This shimmering, unstable appearance is one of the most unsettling parts of Venus's reality. It looks like a mirage that never ends, a desert of fire and pressure where the air itself warps your vision. When we say Venus has crushing air pressure, it can be hard to imagine. So let's put it into perspective. Standing on Venus is like being 900 meters underwater on Earth. If you've ever felt your ears pop from diving just a few meters, imagine that multiplied by hundreds. The surface rocks look ordinary in photos, but the reality is that they're enduring unimaginable pressure. When probes landed, their metal casings groaned and cracked under the force.